We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And we should be on Twitch soon. All
I
right.
think it might violate my not being re-upped by Facebook if we're on Facebook. So
we're on
if you're on Facebook,
account.
if you're watching this on Facebook, don't rat me out. So Ethan, here I've got an M42 mount lens. This is kind of interesting. It is a 135. It's an f2.8 135 Hanamar, so it's Hanamex. Over here, I have a Minolta MD mount. This is really cool. I got both of these from Mark O'Brien. Mark O'Brien lives in Asheville or near Asheville, where I was vacationing for the last 10 days well, I've been back a little bit, but where I was vacationing. So we got together. It was really cool. Other than Nick, he's the only other podcaster who I've actually met, which I thought was really cool. He's a really nice guy. And he gave me a box of things. And this is an MD mount. It is a macro focusing. So it's a helical, right? Helicoid, MD to MD. And it's macro focus, and it's a 2x macro, which makes it twice as good macro because macro is really 1-to-1, right? Mm-hmm. And it's nothing, it's a 1-to-2 doesn't work. Okay, so here's my question. Of all of the mounts that are out there, all of the lens mounts that are out there that you've used, number one, I want to ask, what is your favorite lens mount and why to use on the system? And then what's your favorite lens mount and why to adapt?
Wait, sorry, what do you mean by the system?
That's used. Okay, so you would use a Minolta lens mount on a Minolta.
I see. Not like a system that I'm building.
Not a system that you're building, although you could build it. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So Eric is ready to go with us.
Oh yeah,
so,
I got him. Hold on, I gotta find the window.
Okay.
For those of you listening at home, Nick is MIA.
Here, I got it.
Okay. Well, you can't let him in. I gotta let him in, but I gotta figure out what window. Admit.
Oh, you sent him the link and all that type of stuff. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Hey, sunshine. So here's the question, and we'll explain this to you at a break.
Is Nick okay?
Yeah, we think he is. He just decided to play hooky. So we brought Eric in, and right now we're in the middle of the question and answer session at the top of the Homemade Camera Podcast, and the question is, what is your favorite lens mount to use natively? So, like, this is an M42 lens mount. Mm-hmm. This is an MD to MD focusing helical I got from Mark O'Brien of the FPP, which is of not the LFPP, of which Eric famously is part of. So what is your favorite mount to use on that system? So for instance, like a Contax mount is a pain in the ass on a Contax. M42s are a pain in the ass because they don't always, automatically stop down apertures. So what's your favorite lens mount to use? We'll start, Ethan, are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple, boring answer. Probably Nikon or Leica M mount.
Okay, so let's ask Nikon. So that is, you're in a native system. You're saying Nikon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because?
Well, I like those lenses and I like those bodies.
Okay. Oh, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. And why M42? Though is it the exact same thing, or not M42? Like an M.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I like M39 screw mount too, but again, same deal. Is like those are the nicest lenses I own. I like shooting with them, and Leica cameras are nice. I mean, I have favorites that are outside of that. Like, I don't generally build cameras around Nikon or Leica lenses, right? I enjoy Mamiya press lenses because they make things easy for me.
That's the second half. Let's hear from Eric.
Oh, it's a two-part.
Yeah, it's a two-parter.
Well, I guess native, like if I'm not building a lens and I just have systems, I've always shot Nikon. Like, and it felt like when I was going to school. When I was going to school, I'm not gonna say how long ago that was. Like, especially in the PJ, the photojournalism set.
Last century.
Yeah, exactly. It always fell. Yeah, it always fell super cleanly. Either you were a Nikon or you were a Canon person.
Yeah,
and that was it. Unless, and then later on, like once you became a junior and a senior, you became aware of the Magnum crew and that sort of stuff. Then it was like you drooled over the Leica rangefinder and probably couldn't afford one unless you came from a well-heeled family or got gifted something or whatever. But like you saw your documentary photography professors with their Leicas, and you were just like, oh,
yeah.
Hi. So I'm a Nikon guy. I've been a Nikon guy for a long time, but due to a recent trip to Germany, actually not that recent, a couple of years ago, I love my Pentacon 6s. They're quirky, they're funky, they're fucking brilliant. The native lenses are amazing.
That is my third favorite mount. Absolutely.
Really? They shoot super well, and they make great platforms for handmade lenses.
Okay. Well, we're into the second half. Ethan, what lens mount do you like to adapt?
Yeah, I mean, so large format lenses take care of a lot of the issues of camera building for you, as do Mamiya press lenses. But, you know, I might have a thing or two in the hopper involving Pentacon 6 mount, or as I would call it,
and we can't see you, by the way.
Oh, what? Yeah. Here we go.
There we go.
I'm gonna say, I don't know why you're seeing my giant head right now.
Yeah, no, I really dig the Pentacon 6 mount, or the Kiev 60 mount is how I know it. Right, when I was in high school and was totally broke, you could buy a Kiev 60 with a lens and a finder and like ready to roll for like $120 new.
Oh wow, okay. I'm thinking maybe just as they were starting to be imported to the U.S., maybe 85, they were $400, or at least a Kiev 88.
Yeah, the 88s were terrible. They had shutters that would lock up. The 60s had their problems mainly with overlapping frames and poor frame advance, which I have fixed on 2 of 3 of my Kiev 60s. Unfortunately, I didn't have those abilities in high school, and so eventually I had to adapt those lenses to Mamiya M645 bodies, for which I could not afford lenses at the time. And the lenses were beautiful, but I didn't really love 645, and they were also just stop down. Like, there was no auto aperture on them when you adapted them, and it was a big pain in the ass. I was happy to get away from that system eventually. You know, Hasselblad is nice, and it's an easy answer. And that's generally what I use because it doesn't overlap the frames and require me taking the body apart to adjust everything. But man, my Kiev 60, like a RSAT-C or a Vega, is super nice lens. Maybe nicer than my Hasselblad lens.
And I like the Bronica version of Hasselblad because of the money. But also, here's the thing: talk about framing or lens counting and overlapping and all that type of stuff. This will always take frame 12.5. I think it's permanently jammed on 220. So it takes, well, it doesn't even do that. It takes a half a frame on that last little tiny bit, and then it winds on like it's done, but it takes a 13th frame, which is
Graham, in my years of buying and selling cameras, I am, the ETR and the SQ and even the GS Bronica series are very nice. I prefer Hasselblad, but I mean, at any price is a little bit different. But the SQ series, I maybe 95% of the time something was wrong with them. And it's partially due to age and partially due to maybe crap lubrication that they didn't know would all dry. But those cameras, I don't trust them any more than I trust a Kiev.
My Bronicas, it's the S series. This is an ECTL, but it's part of it's the last of the S series.
The S2, S2A. I used to have S2As. Yeah. And I can't, I've been burned. The shutter, Ethan probably knows this, but their shutter system is overly complicated. They're avoiding a patent or something, and they're super prone to failure. They slide down.
It slides down. Funky. But what that does, it finally struck me what's going on with that, and that is those lenses. I don't have one sitting right here, but those lenses have a back of the lens focal distance of like 50 millimeters.
Oh, yeah, they're super deep.
So it had to slide down in order to use those Nikon lenses. And I think that's part of the deal was they went to source lenses from Nikon, and Nikon said, well, we have this lens. And they said, oh, right, let's figure it out. Let's use that lens.
I actually think, and I'm sure some camera historians someplace can correct me otherwise, but my understanding is they came up with that overly complicated mirror slide down system to avoid some sort of patent pissing match with Hasselblad or other major makers of the day. And so they had to come up with a different way for their mirrors to work. And that was how they did it. And as a result, when it came time to manufacture lenses, they went to Nikon because they didn't have the ability to do so. And Nikon was like, oh, well, because Nikon wouldn't make a lens like that for funsies. Like it doesn't work with anything to have something sitting that deep for medium format. Like they wouldn't have been like, oh, for shits and giggles, we're going to do a massive industrial design effort around a funky lens and then wonder what we're going to do with it. I'm pretty sure that came after Bronica came to them and said, hey, we need lenses. Here's a system. And the Nikon designers are like, oh, well, this gives us some interesting possibilities. Let's do a thing. At least that's my impression from my like year and a half with Bronica S2As. They're brilliant cameras. I just don't trust them anymore. I've had two of them die on me like that, and I just can't.
This is exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I love their design. Like the 50s Cadillac design on those things is fucking gorgeous. I think they're the sexiest looking cameras out there. They look so cool. They look like a fucking Cadillac. His own name on it. They're so good.
The thing that is, and for those of you who have never seen it, many of you will be aware of the Jupiter 12 that has an element that goes so far back into behind the flange that it can damage sensors on mirrorless cameras. It goes that deep. Well, the Bronica had the same system, except the front glass on some of them sits behind the flange. It is that deep into it, which is just crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Okay, so I asked that question. I don't really have my own favorite, but I never got along with Nikon. I was much more of a Canon person growing up. And Eric, we can fight over that and everything else that we were planning on fighting over.
I'm on Team Eric for this one.
Yeah. And wait, you're with Eric? No, wait, you're with me on the whole idea that optics are math. So let's
that's for a different podcast. I'll yell at Eric about that later.
We'll revive a different podcast on this. So Ethan, do you got it all queued up? Are you ready to start the Homemade Camera Podcast? Do you have the music?
I think I probably have the music.
Okay.
And
And
we weren't even started.
Okay, and
we're going now.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, and we're here.
And we're out. Oh my God, it was that was quick. By the way, I think I'm proposing a change to the name of this. It is no longer the Homemade Camera Podcast. It's the Homemade Camera Authority.
Okay. I don't know that I'm an authority on anything.
No, we collectively are, and from now on,
all I can think of when you say that is Cartman, literally saying "respect my authority." Like I can't.
Okay. I'm not so scarred by.
Oh, it's not scarred. I think it's hilarious. It's just my immediate association.
Okay, sure. Are we ready to start?
Okay. Yes. Authority? So, I have been talking with Ethan over the last week about what the subject of the show is, and Ethan has been we got to hold it for the show. No, we got to hold it for the show. And he said it just like that, just like I just said it. So, Ethan, what's today's show about?
So today's show, I just wanted to show you some things that I've been working on and show you where I'm going because I'm about to get there. But these, we couldn't find Nick this morning. He was probably out logging in the woods or, building a 9 million pound steel sculpture in his shop. But
with a camera.
Yeah, we have
built it.
Eric, and this is okay. So this is a throwback to about maybe 18 to 24 months ago on this podcast. We issued a challenge, which
SDC.
Yeah.
This is the
Okay. So we issued a challenge about 2 years ago on this podcast about.
Bring yourself up into the full screen so everybody can see you. For those people who are watching.
All right. So we issued a challenge on this podcast about 2 years ago, talking about self-developing cameras, and the idea was based around the Afghan box camera. And I'm sad Nick is not here, but I think in 2 or 3 weeks we're going to do an episode with my buddy Joe Van Cleve, and we will make sure Nick is here and we can blow his mind a little bit more. So anyway, the idea was, an Afghan box camera is basically a large format camera with a box and an arm sleeve and a little dark room in the back so you can make prints, kind of like a Polaroid. And we all kind of said we would make one, and like the simplest version was like a developing tank with a hole drilled in it. My buddy Joe made one of those, and then I made this proof of concept, which actually became a product that I've sold a ton of. This is the Pinholio, which I'm not going to talk about too much, but I'll just do a quick recap. It's got this back for paper. Take a piece of paper in here, and then it's got a double flange that the back slides into that prevents light, and also
that is box within box within box. So
triple box sliding design, which works as a light baffle and a frame. And then it has a dark slide stop behind the lens, so you can slide it up, take a picture, slide it down, and then the lens is actually mounted on this like screw cap. And so once you've taken a picture, you can screw the cap off. And then there's another screw cap with a light baffle in it, just like a developing tank. And then you screw it on and you pour chemistry in and develop a picture.
When you screw that on and off, does it expose the paper at all, or is it completely light-proof?
No, it's completely light-proof. So I don't know if you can see if you're watching on YouTube, the slide is behind the lens.
Oh, brilliant.
So, this was, I think, pretty clever, but I just made this as a proof of concept of where we were going. Is I wanted to replace the 20 by 24 Polaroid. And that's been sort of a goal of mine for 5 years now, at least. Elsa Dorfman is one of my favorites of all time. She shot almost exclusively on that camera. And, it's been sort of in the ethos for, I don't know, since the late 70s, early 80s. There were only 7 of them, but they were really cool, and now they don't make media for them. So anyway, I made this guy. It became a product. COVID hit. We got into other things. I started building scanners. and we kind of lost track of it. We never really recapped other people and their self-developing projects. Although there's a dude with a very similar product coming to Kickstarter, but I got something better to crush him with. So, yeah. So a bunch of 18 months ago, 2 years ago, my buddy Joe and I were working on direct positive reversal processes. So, um, developing shooting like a paper negative on color or black and white paper and developing it so it comes out directly as a positive. And we got pretty good at it. I don't think I have showed you any of these, but I'm going to show you some 8x10s that we shot on our sliding box camera and developed them inside of a prototype of a self-developing back. And I'll explain what that is later, but I'll just show you sort of the types of results. So this is a photo of my buddy Joe. We have a lot of portraits of each other as we were working on this.
That's usually how this works, right?
Yeah, right. Not necessarily going for art, just can we get color and tone? And so, the interesting thing about this is this came directly out of a camera. There's no negative, there's no intermediary process. We shot this and developed it inside the camera or inside the bag.
And for everybody who's listening, this is an 8x10 piece of paper that is that has, I mean, it's just a portrait photograph that never had a negative.
Correct.
So
right. and was developed in under 5 minutes inside of it without a darkroom. Right. So this is something we talked about with Sam Troxel on a fairly popular episode a while back. He built a 20x24 sort of beautiful but untenably large camera for the purpose, and he was working on that process. This is a photo that Joe took of me in black and white with a slightly different black and white reversal process. Again, no intermediate negative.
You look scary.
Yeah, this is after a long day in the coal mine. No, it's
this is a black and white, and that is ortho.
Yeah, so it kind of looks like a tintype, right? It doesn't register reds. Yeah. My beard is black. I look scary. Yeah. And so we had a bunch of success with these guys. Here's 2 others. This one's actually on a homemade lens, which
cool.
is in the hopper. And this was my buddy Gerson. So we had a bunch of success, and we actually did these in a self-developing back prototype, which worked great. But after a couple hundred shots, it kind of just got broken. It wasn't as robust as I wanted to make it for a product, and we wanted to finish getting where we were getting before I just released like an 8x10 back. And so a couple of weeks ago, I got back at it, and I'm not to 20x24 yet, but I'm real close. I have some drawings to show you from SolidWorks, but I will start with this thing. So what I'm holding up looks like a 4x5 film holder, only it's a little bit thicker, maybe an inch and a half thick, but has the front profile of a 4x5 film holder, standard large format. And it has this little, on the top, trough that's under one of the holes of the dark slide pull, right? So you pull the dark slide out, and a frame goes in here with some embedded magnets. There's magnets in the back, and so you put your paper in the front, put the frame over it, you drop the magnets, and they just snap into place because, that's how magnets work. It's magic.
But so apparently you have a metal back to this.
No, I don't. There's embedded magnets in the back. It's all.
Oh, okay. So
I didn't want it to be reactive.
Yeah, it's those super strong little like.
Yeah.
Rare science magnets you used to be able. Yeah, you used to be able to get at Radio Shack. I miss Radio Shack.
Oh, in the days of Radio Shack, they did not have neodymium magnets. Maybe. Anyway, so okay. The thing that's different about this from a normal film holder, besides the price, cheap at any price, is that it has the same sort of light baffle as we saw on the Pinholio, where you can directly pour liquid into this and use it as a developing tray. And everything's waterproof inside. And then, we've used this on Joe's Intrepid, and we laser cut a frame that pushes the focusing screen back so that the focusing screen is at the correct film plane for this back instead of a standard, 4.5, 5 millimeter flange distance on a normal film holder. And so you put your, I don't know where it is, you put your shim in, you focus, you take your shim out, you put the back in, you take a picture, you pull the back out, and then you can pour some chemistry into it, and you can make, let's see, the process for the 4x5, and this was all like in service of 20x24, but there's $500 worth of materials in a 20x24 back almost, and I can't prototype 7 of them, 1 for space, 2 for cost, and so I wanted to get kind of this 4x5 done and done nicely before I moved on to even 8x10, but we'll get there. So we used it for some direct Harman prints, and we've been thinking about working on this with a monobath, so it would be just a 1 chemical pour in.
I was gonna ask you about the chemistry, because the reversal process, at least as I've done it with my buddy Vince, who has mastered this. You've seen some of the stuff that I post on Instagram, right? Like the video and stuff. Like that's Vince's process.
Sharp lenses.
Yeah, but the business that was with RC Paper. So Vince has it dialed, but it involves some very, very, very environmentally unfriendly bleaches and things that don't go down the drain that you need.
Dichromate bleach. We have a different process, but we'll get there. So the first.
Highly curious.
I think this is going to be the new Polaroid replacement chemical process that's taking the podcasting world by storm in 2021. But this is the Harman positive tests we did. We've been thinking about working with monobath, although there's some interesting properties about Harman paper that may make that difficult. But this is just, developer rinse and fix. And then we did some direct positive reversals. This is on regular RC paper. It's hard to see, this is glossy, and I have light set up in my shop, but that's a photo of Joe that I took. There's always a photo of Joe or a photo of me. And that's a pretty quick process involving hydrogen peroxide and citric acid rather than dichromate bleach, and more or less battery acid that you'd get from...
Okay. I'm going to... well, you know what? I'm going to bring this in later on. I'll let you go.
Okay.
Graham is showing self-control.
I'm just thinking about how the show rolls out.
I'm saying this with affection.
Yeah.
Okay, then we also shot some color positives with this process. These are on RA4 paper. And so again, all of these were shot and developed in 3 to 10 minutes, depending upon the process, in this guy. And so just to test this, right? And so this is a new product that I will release in the next week or two. And these are makeable. It's not where I'm going, but it is a prototype for a larger thing that I think people will really dig, right? There's no more Type 55 or 4x5 Polaroids, So I think this is going to be a fun replacement, or even like a classroom demo type of thing. You don't need a darkroom, and you can do a bunch of photographic processes in it, and some of them you can even do mostly in daylight. And so, okay, we were shooting this with a shim on Joe's Intrepid, but really I think the fun part about 4x5 is it's a tiny format. You could carry it around. So you guys are familiar with the Cameradactyl OG. I made the Cameradactyl Go by flipping some things around. So you're familiar with this.
Polaroid's coming after you, man.
Yeah. Locking, focusing knob and ring, and a large format lens. And the difference between the OG and the Go is the Go has a shorter nose cone and a built-in thick flange here. So the glass is natively, or the acrylic focusing screen is natively as far back as the film plane in the holder. So,
Okay.
these guys go together and they make, uh, handheld Polaroids again. It's a little bit more involved. But,
Okay. I would like one in orange with for a 135 Optar.
Okay, I'm going to
I'm
need
ready.
a couple of measurements to confirm, but I think I can do that.
Okay.
Orange, dude, you're stealing Simon's color.
No. Simon stole mine. Sorry. I was using orange for mine before Simon bought his first printer.
I told Simon how to use his printers. Also, I'm mad at Simon because he wouldn't come on the show today because he has a family.
Yeah. Simon's dead to us.
I see. I'm the second string, which is fair. I kind of am.
No, you were first, but you didn't answer right away.
But I would have had both of you guys on to heckle.
Oh, that'd be fun. I love having Simon around.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, so this is, I think people are going to really dig this. It's
yes.
The other interesting thing about this is it only takes 35 mil to fully cover this the paper in this back, right? So unfortunately,
but 35 milliliters, not millimeters.
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, a 35 millimeter film can is only 30 milliliters, and sometimes for a wash I use like 50. But I think it's so little that you could make really inexpensive one-shot chemistry, and paper at 4x5 is really cheap, even Harman. And I think I'm
and just dump it in the nearest stream.
Well, I might carry like a spittoon jug.
Yes, there we go.
But none of these chemicals are particularly hazardous. I wouldn't want to spill them out, but I might put like a jug that is marked "Do not drink" next to my water bottle in my backpack, and just I think I'm going to go to CVS or Walgreens and get a bunch of those like travel liquid bottles that are less than airplane safe amounts, and then you could even shoot a photo on an airplane. But I don't think you should start developing film on an airplane. I do not endorse that. But I think this is
stick it on the window to dry.
Yeah, I could literally have a jug for waste and like a bandolier or a pocket full of developer stop fix or hydrogen peroxide or whatever process I'm doing, and take a picture, and while I'm walking down the street process it. Like I don't even need to stop, it's so small.
So what this opens up, at least for me, right, in my brain, is one of the reasons I've avoided especially wet plate and glass plate, dry plate, that sort of stuff, historic processes on bike trips that are along historic routes, is that, the medium, I love glass plates and I love dry plates. They're really, really cool, but they're fucking heavy. Like they're so heavy. And then the chemistry, right, especially wet plate chemistry, is just so bulky and so heavy that it's just not feasible to do that, at least not without lugging an extra 25, 50 pounds of stuff, which regardless of how much I ride my bike is still the suck. Sorry, that's still the suck. But this, like the paper, the medium weight becomes non-existent.
Yep.
The developer weight is still there for a long trip, but if you're using household chemicals, you can sort of because you can pick up vitamin C, hydrogen peroxide, that sort of shit, like kind of everywhere, right? So if you could do like a monobath or a chemistry set that can be easily gotten and mixed from your local CVS, Safeway, wherever, that gets pretty interesting.
Pretty much you could do everything. I know Dan Keating was a wizard at this, but I like a little bit of powdered Dectol is nice, and there's all sorts of arguments on whether or not you can split powder. You can definitely split powder, and you can make a gallon of Dectol with only a few ounces of powder, which is great, and you could be out for months with that amount of developer, and then just pick up some salt water and vinegar.
Yeah,
but
for this though, you wouldn't want to carry a gallon of liquid around. You don't need it. You only need 35 milliliters per.
gallons worth of powder is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
right. Yeah, I would
Which is
say.
nothing, and then you could just make 35 ml or 100 ml or even a liter at a time. You know, the last time I went to the Grand Canyon, we backpacked down to the bottom, and when we got up, we had to go back into the backcountry office to sign out, and we all weighed our packs. With no water, I had a 60-pound pack. And like, I am a ultralight backpacking guy, but 30 pounds of Hasselblads really adds up. But I'm looking forward to taking some of this.
Okay, so 30 pounds of Hasselblads versus one Holga. And think about I hike with the Holga.
It's a different thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you know me.
Some very sharp, terrible pictures down there.
I'm a pinhole handmade lens kind of guy all day long, but there is a distinctly different output from a Hasi to a Holga.
Sure.
All magic.
Okay,
right.
Ethan,
yeah, go ahead.
Are you ready to listen to a couple of monkey wrenches in the gears in the works questions?
Yeah, I think that's good, and then I'll show you where I'm going with it.
Okay. Yeah. Just for this, I think that this is a killer product. I want it.
Same.
The big deal. There are a couple of things, and that is, I tried direct, direct positive, reversal positive, whatever you want to call it, using a bunch of different papers. And I had nothing but trouble. Mm-hmm. I used the same peroxide you used, the same vitamin C you used, or citric acid. It was canning acid. Yep. And I had trouble. So
let me deal with this monkey wrench first. Right?
Okay.
I'm sure you got more.
And then I just have a second one. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is some people have had some troubles with it. A lot of people have had a lot of success.
Yes.
You know, when Joe and I got back to it last week after after like 2 years of not doing it, you know, we had some issues with prints that kind of looked like this. I don't know if you can see, that has focus, some staining on it because I had a dead chemical, sodium sulfite, which is a clearing bath. I just got some in last night.
Okay.
Having fresh chemistry is useful and makes it much more repeatable. But also, there's a lot more, both on black and white, but particularly on the RA4 color positive process. There's a lot more information out there. You know, we did not invent these processes. We had one improvement to the black and white process, and we were the first to be on YouTube with it, which was extremely powerful because that's, you know, it used to just, the only place it lived on the internet was like this APUG or Botrio thread that went on for 11 years that had, Ron, photo engineer, who was a wonderful man. I never met him, but I would have liked to. It had Don Frula, who's a genius. Right. It had Joe well before I met him. And so we were the first people to put it on YouTube. Maybe 150 people ever read that thing on APUG. But now, you know, our YouTube videos are climbing past 5,000, I think. And then people who are, you know, much better photographers than us, like Matt Marash, like Sam Troxel, they're also experimenting with it. And there's a bunch more research out there. And so what Joe and I plan to do on Monday or Tuesday, aside from reviewing this next product, is do a thorough chemistry review with a little bit of math and a little bit of chemistry and a lot of intuition behind every single step of both processes. And so if you cannot get it to work from the next video we release, I am going to drive to Florida with a van full of chemistry and make you do it.
Okay, and I'll make you dinner.
Great.
I was going to say, wait. I can just practice. Say, I can't get it to work. I guess you have to drive out to California.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I'm coming to California
no.
in August, but we'll
No.
talk about it
Perfect.
later.
Eric, come to Florida. It'll be a group session. So
October.
Yeah, and by the way, it rains here every day for the last 2 weeks. I know.
Cheap shot.
I know. I can tell you about trying to mow your lawn. Yeah, I know.
What lawn?
No, yeah, I'm complaining about mowing the lawn. You're complaining about,
fire season.
Burning. Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so Ethan, here's my second. And by the way, my advice on this, from my point of view, is you need to be the authority. Don't send them anywhere else. Have your videos done before this becomes an orderable product. Yeah. So that's just, I think you need to be the authority.
Yeah, I mean,
second one is
the thing is, though, I mean, the product is definitely going to beat the videos to market because it's just going on my website. I'm not going to run a Kickstarter, and like, you can shoot paper negatives with it. You can shoot direct positives on Harman with it, and like, everybody knows how to do that. And
and I can do that.
The reversal process, like, once you have it dialed in, it's really reliable. And like, these were not, we took months to get here, but once we got here, like, these are not fluke pictures. We could just do this repeatedly over and over and over, in black and white and color. And so,
I think Joe's a good looking man. I want one of them if they're repeatable.
They are.
Okay, so here is my second question, and that is, what's it going to cost me for a second back? I might want to go out with a couple of backs, or maybe, depending on where I'm going, I may want to shoot a couple, then go down to the stream to get my water. So what's the second back gonna? We haven't talked about cost yet, but is it reasonable?
It's cheap at any price. So I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to sell them for, but I'm going to sell them in a couple of different ways. I'll make a very good deal, as always, and it might even work.
Or I'll kick you off the podcast.
Yeah. The band hammer comes out, Lordy.
Yeah, I will take it. So I think I'm going to sell it in a couple of different ways, right? So this is designed to work with any field camera, 4x5 camera, right? And so I will probably sell, units of one with a shim, or sell the shim separately. The shim is going to be pretty cheap. If I make it out of acrylic, it's expensive in materials. It's like, I don't know, $25 or $30 just in laser cut parts. Cost to me, but I think I might sell it at a very low markup just because it's something that people need to use this thing. And then I might sell this guy for a little bit more than the OG, but we already know the cost to manufacture. There's a little bit more expensive to manufacture than the OG.
What was the OG's cost again?
Right now I'm selling them for $240, and so I might do these for like $260. And then make custom cones for this thing at like $300 or something like that. But they'll be under $300, which is expensive, but also handmade.
Also not.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. They're nice cameras, and you can't get them anywhere else. These backs are going to be rather expensive for, like, if you're just looking at a normal film holder is $10, and a developing tank, you could buy Stearman Press or something like that for field developing for $40-$50. And I think that's a reasonable option for this process as well. But if you want the convenience, I'm thinking about selling these in packs of 1 and 3. And so I have to figure out exactly, I've only built 4 of them, and I really need to build like 10 or 20 of them to know exactly how long it takes me to assemble and how much defects I have to throw out. There'll probably be somewhere around $100, right? Maybe a little bit more for 1 back and a little bit less for 3 backs. So I might do like, 120 for a back and then $300 for 3 or something like that.
It's actually not bad.
No, it's not. It's not terrible. We're, it's it's just like the labor to assemble such a thing is tough when I'm not doing it assembly line style. But the labor doesn't really scale up that much as we get bigger. And if you have no more monkey wrenches, I've got another thing to show you.
Those were my two. Yeah.
Is there, out of curiosity, it's not necessarily a monkey wrench, but like if you're shooting in the field and it's really, really hot or really, really cold, how does that affect like?
Yeah. So
the waterproofness, if you will,
can only
or
shoot it
because
at 68 degrees.
Right.
You can only shoot it at 20 C.
So the back.
California's perfect then.
The back will work at almost any temperature, but the chemistry will change, right? So hotter temperatures are generally, for at least the black and white reversal process, hotter temperatures are fine. You might see higher contrast, but okay, cool. And your chems will degrade and oxidize a little faster in more temperatures, but that's not a big deal with single shot. As things get cold, like, are we talking California cold, or are we talking Mount Horeb Trollway cold, right? So I go
take it to extremes.
Right. Okay. So California cold, there's probably no time anywhere in the state of California in a 10-year period where it's too cold to use this thing. However, let's say we are on Lake Monona trying to take pictures of ice fishermen with our RB67 camera, and we shoot our first exposure, and the shutter in my lens sticks open because it froze. Or we could go to Minneapolis and throw coffee up in the air and it freezes before it hits the ground. That's not going to work. Although hydrogen peroxide should.
We should go up to Sherry Christensen in Alberta.
Right. I mean, this is not an outdoor wintertime product for those people who live in Alberta.
Yeah. Actually, my question was more just like, my question actually had less to do with the chemistry, although it brings up an interesting question about monobath, because I've been using like Cinestill DF96 and everything is temperature sensitive for those, like very, very specific. It was more just like how a lot of 3D parts, especially thin, was like an expand or contract with temperature, and whether or not that would affect the back's ability to hold liquid cleanly without leaking or light leaking, that sort of stuff. That was just more the question.
I'm printing the shell walls thick on this guy.
Okay.
It's the product is fine. You're going to have some problems in real cold with the chemistry, just like anytime. But we could get into doing things like putting the chemistry in your armpit under your winter jacket, and
like we used to do for batteries.
Yeah. The old Walkman trick. Not a temperature concern really, but
okay.
I think summertime is more pleasant if you're in northern climes, but New Mexico should be fine all year. Okay, you guys ready to see what's next?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wait. Okay, is there a too hot for the material, the acrylic? Can I leave this in my car? Now, my 3D printed camera will melt, but will the back melt?
Yeah, I mean, in your car in Florida in the summertime when it's 160 in your trunk, you shouldn't do that, right? But you also shouldn't do that with your Nikon or even like a injection molded film holder.
I do it with my Nikon. I don't like Nikons.
Well, okay, but all of your light seals will melt. You shouldn't do it with your Canon.
Don't hate.
I won't do it with my LCA.
Right. I mean, like, if it's 100 degrees outside, you probably shouldn't leave it in a trunk, but you're totally fine walking around with it and shooting it in 100 degrees. Phoenix got up to 120. You're probably still fine, but, like, I wouldn't leave it, like, on a hot manhole cover in the center of Phoenix on a 120-degree day when that thing gets up to 160, right? Like, get a little soft. But, I have no worries about thermal warping. I've been making these cameras for 3 years now, and I had one camera melt out of hundreds somewhere in transatlantic shipping. I think it was, I don't know how it was stored, but it must have been in like a shipping container in the sun somewhere on a boat.
It was the top container and it was against the roof.
I mean, the camera didn't melt, but like the back warped a little bit. But anyway, 1 out of hundreds, and I've sold plenty of things to California, Arizona, Nevada, Thailand, warm places. So should be fine. Then we scale up. You ready to see the next thing? Okay. So where I was going with this eventually is 20 by 24, right? Which is why I wanted to razz Nick about it. But 20 by 24 again uses hundreds of dollars worth of materials for a prototype, and it's huge, and I don't have that space in my shop, and so the design for the 4x5 back does not really translate to 20 by 24, right? I could 3D print an 8x10 version of this bed, right? And so the base is 3D printed. The top is acrylic laser cut. I could 3D print an 8x10, but it would take a week to print the body, and that's no good. And I couldn't really 3D print a 20 by 24 without building a bigger printer, and I don't really have space for that. And we're talking like 2-week, 3-week print time for one shell, and so now we're talking about a product that's $5,000. It doesn't scale, right? And so,
especially when your power goes out,
yeah,
4 days in.
Yeah, right. Like the chances of a dead print as it gets exponentially longer is much higher. So, I prototyped the next design in 8x10 for the 20 by 24. However, this is a product on its own now. Again, complete with a shim for an 8x10 camera, right? So it works just like the other one. Got this dark slide. This is a brand new one, so I did not peel the protective paper off of the frame so we could see it. And again, it has some magnets. Let's see if I can grab some magnets out of this guy. Not install the magnets yet. And so you put your piece of paper in here, line it up. It's got like a little pocket for alignment. And then these magnets should just jump into place. Let's see if I can do it in a way that, see, yep, 1, 2, and then it just holds your paper down like that.
Okay.
And then really it only has one 3D printed part, which is this bonded trough right here, which again has a light baffle internally and allows you to pour chemistry through. It even has a little pour spout here, which makes it not dribble. The first iteration of that had a lot of dribbling problems. And then you can pour in
sounds like
through the dark slide. Yeah. The one thing that I might change is I may like laser engrave like exposed and unexposed, or
yes,
maybe make one of these handles white or something. But other than that, this product is ready to go, and it'll do 8x10s. It works about the same way, so I don't have too much of a spiel. I don't have like necessarily a hand camera that goes around this just yet. I do have some pinholes that you could use that way, but basically, I will again sell these in packs of 1 and 3, and then either separate or combined. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't built the listing yet. Sell a shim so that your ground glass, instead of being at however many millimeters a standard 8x10 holder is, it will come back so you can focus at this thicker depth, which is really not that thick. It's maybe 1.5 inches.
So, Ethan, now I'm going to come right through the camera, strangle you, because now I need an 8x10 camera.
So, yes, you do.
I was just thinking, well, first off, the one of the packs of 3 is perfect, because if you're shooting this live somewhere, and you have a team like you and an assistant or somebody, you can shoot it, have somebody back there like developing or whatnot, and not pause your work. So that's fabulous. Also, I think I already messaged you, but for like Alana Eritrim's project,
I saw that come in.
That is down the pipe for her.
I think we could probably discuss a sponsorship.
Yeah, that's right down the pipe, like straight into the sweet spot. Or for, like my buddy Vince, who occasionally will do these gigs with like Shaka Khan or like Sheena E for her birthday party, doing 8x10 positives.
Dude, man,
know,
if it's Shaka Khan, this is way too small.
Yeah, actually, I think it was.
To talk about the next thing for that.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Sheila E because she's an Oakland native, and she had her birthday party here like 3 or 4 years ago, and had him come in with an 8x10 and shoot 8x10 paper positive portraits, and they set up a closet at the Paramount Theater to run the chemistry through, hang dry them, and then the guests would come by and pick them up as their memento for being invited to and attending Sheila E's birthday party. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. Yeah, that's yeah. So, but this though, you don't need the closet anymore.
No,
mind you, nobody should need the closet, ladies and gentlemen. It is Pride Month.
Right.
We should never need the closet. But sorry, just.
But we understand those people who still
for Pride Month. I want to release a product that will get the darkroom users out of the closet.
Hell yes, yes. I think this is fun.
Okay.
I obviously want some.
Great. I'm glad it's having a good reception on this podcast. To the people who are already invested in the things that I'm doing. Okay, so I
are you saying you're preaching to the choir? Is it what I'm hearing?
Yeah, of course, right? Like I kind of knew that you guys would dig it, and that's kind of why I've been not telling Graham what today's show I was going to show him all week. I was so excited. I was real excited to show this to Nick, but maybe Nick won't see it, and then, or even if he does, the next podcast that we do on this subject, I hope to have something else finished. I usually don't like running my mouth about the things I'm going to do. I like running my mouth about the things I have done. However, some little bugger is trying to run a Kickstarter with the concept stolen from this camera. And so before that Kickstarter comes out, I am releasing at least the 4x5, the 8x10, the Cameradactyl Go, and maybe a few other things. So where is Ethan going next?
Where isn't Ethan going next?
California. I am going to California. Okay. So, I have more or less completed the first SolidWorks model of a 20x24 camera and the 20x24 back, which together have 102 individual components before about 400 screws and nuts, and maybe 70 brackets. So it's like a 700 part camera. I have a bit of something here, which was an early prototype for the rail system.
Jesus Christ, bro.
So the rail on this camera has a rear geared focusing and then front focusing. I can't really show it to you here, but it collapses down to a little over a meter, and it extends out to over 7.5 feet.
So for those of you who are just listening in your cars, Ethan held up something that's I'm trying to think of an equal size item, but it was
it looks like
it was made up of essentially two rectangles, one that held the back standard and one that held the front standard, but this is just the bed of it,
and it's bigger than his torso.
Oh yeah,
it's and the idea that it collapses down to the petite size of 1 meter. Yeah. And for those Americans who are having trouble, 1 yard. I would not consider the word collapse down.
Well, I mean, at full size, this thing is, let's say, a yard by almost 8 feet long. So it is. I mean, the thing is, like, when you're shooting a 20x24 portrait, you don't want to shoot 1:1. 1:1 is, I mean, my head is only going to take up a tiny bit of that frame, right? Like, if we look at a 20x24 sheet, it's like this. I need to make my head at least 1.5, if not 2 times the size. And so you got
Oh,
to rack
yeah,
that lens way out. And so, I mean,
yeah.
it'll slide close
So,
for landscape.
so what's
But
your bellows factor going to be on something like that?
large. I also happen to own 20,000 watt seconds of Petatron lights, so it's not really an
Yeah.
issue.
Oh, this isn't a field camera?
I
It is a
mean,
field camera.
if you
And
put it in the back of a truck.
right, and so I think I could shoot photos under natural light at a reasonable speed. And again, had I not been pushed by the market, I probably would have held off on this to release some pretty fast homemade lenses and shutters that go with them, which is kind of where I got stuck pre-pandemic. But I'm just going to put these out right now because you can
Gee,
buy all that stuff.
if only there were some people who made some lens punks who
Yeah.
you might know.
Yeah, they may beat me to it. But
Yeah.
I have the components. Joe and I had some real good tests for building lenses that covered 8x10s, and I have the components for 20x24 coverage lenses. But one thing at a time. That'll eat a few more months after I release this.
Okay.
So if
go
you're gonna how much, I mean, you already, if I may venture forth, spend an inordinate amount of time drilling, assembling, soldering, like in your little Santa Claus's like photography workshop over there. So I just have to ask if you're adding these to the mix, and I'm assuming the 20x24s will be bespoke, like you'll get a couple orders for these a year, right? But nonetheless, it sounds like the assembly is significant. Do you, the one man shop, have the time to do all of these if you get mass orders? Because this is on top of the scanners. This is on top of your normal camera dactyl stuff.
Yeah, on top of a few scanners that I haven't even released over there that are ready to rock.
Yeah, so like just from a sheer like time energy standpoint,
So,
are you going to start like outsourcing assembly? Because it sort of feels like you're at a phase where either you don't sleep or you need to do that.
Yeah. So one, it means charging a little bit more for these things so they outprice my day job, so that I'm willing to give up some mechatronics engineering stuff. Two, I have been wanting to do this since producing the Mongoose and hadn't been able to do it until the other day, which is hire a friend's kid to run the laser cutter.
Yeah.
And so the first immediate outsourcing that I can do is not necessarily assembly, right? You need a little bit of brains. I mean, my friend's kid was smart enough. I mean, he's a teenager, right? But on day one, I didn't have to waste any time teaching him to assemble anything, right? I had assembly to do, and I loaded the file in the laser cutter. I showed him how to put the thing in. I told him not to look at the laser. I put a cover over so he couldn't possibly look at the laser. I said, what I want you to do is put the thing in the laser cutter, press frame to make sure your cut is on the piece, press start, feel what I've already cut, and when it beeps, stop whatever you're doing, change the laser cutter over and repeat. And he just did that for 2 days straight for a wholesale project that I had. And the work of this project went from, me doing that, because I'm no faster at pushing a laser cutter button. And it's just, it's at the point where the immediate stuff that I can farm out is running the cutter. And then if I get lucky, I can get some pre-assembly. I don't I don't think I've built like the most impressive brand, but I've built some brand and like some knowledge, and certainly sometimes I mess up and I have to fix broken thing that somebody gets or something lost in the mail or whatever, and I try and be really good about that. But I still have enough OCD about controlling like nobody else gets to yet do the QC control, right? And so like the final assembly right now and the final testing like is something I'm not really willing to give up. But like there are sub assemblies that I would allow people to do, right? Sub assemblies where the errors are obvious, like bonding one thing to another inside of a jig, and then I can just use a caliper in a second and check. So yeah, I mean, long story short, it just makes a little bit more sense these days to make the products a little bit more expensive so I can give up on doing, brewery machine fixing, and also so I can hire somebody at a living wage to press a button and unload a laser cutter and load a laser cutter.
Okay, cool.
End of COVID is nice.
Yeah, well, and you don't have a kid you can press into quasi-slave labor like Jason Lane does, you know?
I mean, but Jason Lane has an army of kids, right?
Yes,
like
he
the
does.
whole neighborhood works for him.
He is paying, is my impression. I've never asked him, but I assume so. I mean, my kid would never do that without me paying him. So, it's just that way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, aside from like, I wish I was 15 again and I could go work for Jason, I think it was probably like the best summer job or after school job of all time working for that guy. But, I think I might have a similar. Hey, we got a question. Is Taj 3D asks, would there be a camera kit the consumer could assemble? Yes and no. So the backs, the self-developing backs, I'm not going to sell as a kit. There requires a lot of acrylic bonding, which basically you get one shot at. And so if you don't get it right, you're going to ruin it. And the first time you do it, you're not going to get it right. And so if I sold the kits, I would have to sell you so many spare parts that it would be more expensive than just a pre-assembled thing. The Go is probably not going to become like a Bronco Pan style, print it yourself. However, I do have a bunch of flat pack wood pinholes, this is a 4x5 that this back could go on, or a regular film back. It doesn't have the straps.
Move it over so we could see that.
Oh, sorry, here.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So this is all put together with wood glue, and is pretty precise and doesn't require very much woodworking tools because of the box joints, keeping everything straight and together. And like wood glue, if you mess up a little bit, you can always sand it or break it off and fit it again if you're quick before it fully dries. And so I feel confident that I won't have to send like 30 different flat pack kits to somebody before they get it right. They can nail this one on the first try. And then I also have that sliding box 8x10 that I made with Joe, which, see if I can slide my chair over here and grab it. Oh, hold on.
The world's longest headphone cords.
Yeah, well, I'm also thinking about being prepared for your presentation, but we won't say anything.
All right.
Okay.
So this is something I just built as a test bed. This is the Cajon, or copycat Cajon, from design of Joe's that I made that's laser cuttable. And this is just a standard, 1800 style sliding box camera with a tailboard.
Yep.
And this one, if I assembled it, it would be about $200 or $300 to ship somewhere. Even like in the U.S., it's a big boy. But flat, it should ship much cheaper. And
you can just bring that with you in August. It's fine. Just drop it off.
Well, I got better, but this is actually really pleasant camera to use, and it doesn't pack up. But for portraits, I prefer this actually in use to a field camera or even a studio camera. It's just like there's no movements, but the focusing is really quick and easy, and it's really a pleasure to use. So,
and it's pretty,
and
that wood is pretty.
I mean, Joe spent like an extra day and like finished his nicely. This was the first prototype I made, and it has like all these glue marks and dirt, and like I use crappy wood for the front panel because I ruined the first front panel. Like the kit will be nicer. The issue with the kit, right? So a bellows, you have sort of like a infinite range of close to far focusing distances, whereas with a camera like this, really you can only go, one short distance and a little less than twice that short distance before you pull the box out of the rear, right?
Yep.
And so the problem with this, and one of the reasons why I haven't released it, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to release it, is like, to some extent, I could release this, in this length and say, okay, this is for a 12 to 16 inch camera and that, or lens, and then release a slightly shorter one that's for a 250 to 300 millimeter lens or whatever. But there needs to be a couple different versions if people are going to use all the lenses on it. And
Why
yeah, I
can't
mean,
you why can't you use 3 boxes that telescope out from
I was just gonna ask. Just sell different back box.
and then you just
Yeah.
have one
Legs.
design.
And you
Well,
just have one
so-
front and 3 different sliders.
Right, but then the front would have a preposterously large tailboard for the shorter ones. It's just like this is a good problem to argue with Nick, is making universal cameras versus a camera that's really slick to use. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm holding a big bread box here. I'm talking about slick cameras, but I would much prefer, at least personally, to have a camera that's built to purpose. I think this is a good Simon expression.
How do you keep that light proof on the slide? Are you like doing light proof felt around it?
Oh, nope. So
because when I built my box camera, it was the light proofing of the slide was a right bastard.
So actually pretty easy. I did the same thing as the Pinholio. So this is a single box on the front, on the back, and then the front is a double box, right?
Got it.
And so the light can't just come in like this. It has to come in, make a turn, make a turn, make a turn, make a turn, and then make another turn. And just light.
Well, given enough gravity, you can make light do that, but it's just
you need to be in space.
Yeah. The other method that I use, I'm just going to put these down rather than fitting them together. The other method that I use on like this pinhole camera, which I use box joints. I like the look of these. A lot of people, Graham is not a big fan. Laura, my girlfriend, is not a really big fan of this sort of look, but I think it's pretty Bauhaus about the way it looks. I don't know if you can see.
I'm with it.
There's laser cut corner seals, right? So this actually has a frame in the back or on the inside along all the corners. So like, even if you don't do a good job putting it together, so like this one I did a pretty nice job, and I don't think it's going to leak. But even if I didn't, the corner, it's like another, I don't know, $1 worth of wood and cuts to make them. It seals all, like the box joint is not responsible for the light seal. So, even somebody who's not good at woodworking can make these guys light tight too, without a double box system. So that was like my tangent on things that might be coming that Taj 3D asked about consumer kits. So there'll be some flat pack wooden kits, but as far as the self-developing stuff goes, it really, like, for production is going to need some jigs, right? And so this entire table, I'm going to have to make 3 or 4 different fixtures to bond everything correctly, because working with acrylic like that, you put it together, squirt the cement in, and then it's just like it's done. There's no second chance.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think.
Well.
I think that. Do you have anything else?
Yeah.
Anything else? So I've told you the 2 more things that I want to make, not including the shim for the 20x24. Although there probably won't be a shim because there probably aren't that many people already with 20x24s. I think that's going to be a real expensive camera. It's going to be a real expensive camera to ship. But like, if you want a 20x24 from Can-Ham, it is a beautiful camera, and I would never knock Keith's work. Like, I aspire to be that good one day, but that's a $30,000 camera before a back.
Yeah.
I think I can do a little bit. I mean, is it going to be milled aluminum? No, it's going to be laser cut wood with acrylic, some aluminum bars. But I think I'm going to make it a 20x24, like reasonably affordable for people to buy or rent. And then, just like in the spirit of the Homemade Camera Podcast, I have many notebooks with drawings, but I, for this one, had to go to this binder holding just sketches of components.
It looks to be a 3-ring binder that's got a 2-inch spine. So
yeah, we're
people at home. It's got tabs.
Into just drawings of prototype mechanism, and
Okay.
exploded.
I'm going to take you back to a NASA moon launch.
Mhm.
And if you think about the binders that those guys had, that's about what Ethan has here.
Yeah. I was going to say, I just Googled around. Looks like the Chamonix is brand new for like 10 grand.
7 to 10. Yeah. So the cheapest one you can get is, I believe, $7,500.
Right.
But this 20 by 24, I don't expect people to want to shoot film with it, although you certainly could. I expect, like, the 20 by 24 Polaroid, towards the end of its run, when there was still media for it, it was $300 to $400 per frame plus $1,500 a day to just rent the camera. And so, for the price of shooting, let's say, 1 or 2 frames plus renting the camera per day, you could just buy this whole system. You got to buy a lens or make a pinhole or make a lens. And then paper is like under $2 a frame, and chemistry is about $1. And so we're looking at like $3 at most to make a 20 by 24.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
and like that means, I mean, it takes maybe 15 minutes by the time you like set a person up and focus. It's not like we're not street shooting with a 50-pound, 7.5 foot long camera, but if you shot every 15 minutes all day long, like, you couldn't run through $100 worth of media.
I mean, the challenge is that, I mean, I've never shot 20 by 24 Polaroid, but like paper is inherently much, much slower. And like I said, you need like 20 million watts of flash and like enough to blot out the sun and make your subject blind. Like, it's good you can only shoot a portrait every 5 or 6 minutes, because it's going to take them that long to be able to see once you strobe them that heavy.
Yeah. Or to cycle the flash.
Or to cycle the flash. You're going to suck all the power out from the block around you, brown them out, and it's going to come back up, and they'll be like, fuck, Ethan's taking portraits again, isn't he? Yeah.
That's not true. I use 2 different sides of the room, which are connected to different breakers for different power packs. But
I think you also have to be 1,500 feet from a substation or less.
I mean, paper is slow, but you can still shoot really sharp outdoor portraits in sun, even shade if you're really still. You're not going to shoot indoor, natural light by incandescent light portraits without like a head brace and taping somebody's head to a music stand.
I was mostly being tongue-in-cheek about the speed of the medium, but just for folks who are listening, like the reality is that paper is a much slower beast than a Polaroid that we're espousing to.
I mean,
that's a concern for the Cameradactyl 1 being primarily a handheld camera.
Yeah, so I mean, this thing I'm shooting outdoors.
OG1.
The Go.
OG Go, not 1. Sorry.
I mean, this thing I'm shooting at a 25th of a second in shade, at f4.7 to 5.6, right? And so, like, in bright sunlight, I can get maybe almost 100th of a second.
I was going to say that's not.
It's not terrible. It's not. I'm not going to shoot sports with it, and I tell my subjects to, be still. And certainly as it scales up, right, like the 8x10, I only have an f6.3 lens, and the 20 by 24, I start having like a f8 or f12 lens, depending upon which one I'm using. And so it becomes, more challenging and limited as the lenses get bigger and darker and have a shallower depth of field. But it's, I think, very doable.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes akin just like shooting any other old process. Like wet plate is half an ASA, or whatever it is.
This is much faster than wet plates.
It's I'm thinking the 20 by 24, where it's like an exposure of 1 to 10 seconds. Like, this is still in that sort of realm of
No, I can shoot an outdoor portrait by 20. Not with the bellows racked out all the way.
I was thinking the bellows factor.
1-to-1, I think I can shoot one at about a quarter of a second.
Okay, yeah.
Outdoor shooting,
totally.
Right?
Okay.
But you can even do by hand.
And I will, because I haven't built that shutter yet.
yeah. And that's yeah. I can nerd about shutters on a later date, but yeah.
We need to get one of these, and I say we, Ethan, you need to get one of these in Frank Thorpe's hands.
Who?
Frank Thorpe.
Who's Frank
The
Thor?
guy who shoots. The guy who shoots.
White House, or not White House,
No.
Capitol photographer for NBC News.
Yeah, he shoots. He's like the younger version of David Burnett. He shoots speed graphics and 4x5s as part of his daily, and also digital. Yeah. He's a fabulous photographer.
Yeah.
He's on my list to get onto the podcast at some point
He was,
for large format photography.
During the January 6th rebellion, or maybe I should say
Sedition.
Treason, sedition, whatever you want to say. He was broadcasting live from
a speed graphic.
No, from his iPhone, but he was in there.
Yeah, he shot large format after the fact, like the damage to the rotunda and the glass and everything with large format.
So yeah, I mean, seriously, we should get in touch with him. We should. I say we should.
Yes. Eric should.
But
press agent.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. My big thing is that and you're promising that the chemistry and the developing end is where it needs to be. I'm good with this. I think this is a killer product, and I'm looking forward to it. Although now that I look at it, maybe I don't need the Go. I may just put it on my Chamonix and go. But yeah, I want to. I'd love to have serial number 0005.
I'll make
something.
You an excellent deal.
Okay, sounds good. No, we make a deal. Yeah. I have no problem with that. I have to trade to you. I gotta say, and this is something transitioning out of the show. I got this baby. Okay, Mark O'Brien, once again from the FPP, gave me a box of old lenses. Most of them were like M42 lenses to lens punk up. And thank you, Mark, for those. But he gave me this, and this is an old Diana without a lens on the front. I don't know what he repurposed the lens for. But Ethan, I'll trade you this. I'll even put a lens on it if I don't.
After he drops it.
As I just bobbled it.
I am 100% done with anything smaller than 4x5. But
no, this is 4x4.
Okay.
This is it's a Diana, so it's 4x4.
Okay, I'll make an exception. Okay, you got yourself a deal, partner.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, no, what I really want is for you guys to mention it on Lens Punk.
We'll do that. So I think maybe we should head out at this point. Is that Eric? We do you want to talk about your project in not Napa, but what's right next to Napa? Sonoma?
Oh, it's Napa, Sonoma, and Solano. It's pretty much anywhere north of here is the fire zone.
Yeah,
we're just going to call those counties the fire zone at this point.
Yeah,
that's kind of where it is.
Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to let people know about that project, or do you want to hold off until you have something?
No. I mean, it's in. Well, I'll say it's in flight. The arrangements are mostly made. There's a few more organizations I need to get in touch with or try to get in touch with. So since the fire seasons have become like an official season, or Californians are realizing like it's no longer a one-off random thing. Like we're going to have fires every year. I've been trying for years, or wanting to for years, to do a portrait project around the animals that are evacuated during the fire zones. And it all started because a good buddy of mine that I used to work in motorcycle shops with is, and I say this with complete affection, let me see here, is a rancher kid from up in that area. And is a founding member of a group called Sonoma Napa Fire's Livestock Evacuation, which is it's a bunch of folks with really big trucks and really big trailers who go screaming into people's places to evacuate their animals. Because when the fires first started, like there wasn't a service for that. It was just all volunteers, and they would bail people out with the fire, like 100 yards from their place. So
and part of the deal with this is if you have 20 horses, you do not have a truck and a trailer that will haul 20 horses. You have a truck and trailer that may haul 6.
Yeah, at best, usually 2.
Yeah,
right.
Often 2.
Yeah, yep. Or you have 10 goats on your property, or like 10 cattle, and you need people who can load them, who are good and exercise those animals, because horses just don't get on any damn trailer. Horses are super smart, and they're skittish, and you can't just like grab them like you grab a dog and a cat by the scruff of the neck and toss it into a carrier and get the hell out, right? Mm-hmm. They sense panic as well. So, anyways, this year we're 85% drought in the state of California, as in 85% of California is in serious drought. So our fire season is going to be not like August. It's going to be now. It started now. And I've made arrangements with Solano County Fairgrounds, Sunrise Horse Rescue, Jameson Ranch Rescue. I'm trying to get some wildlife rescue groups in, Solano County Animal Control, to take portraits of animals and the volunteers that care for them. So basically, I'm going to go in after they're sort of placed into the zone they're being evacuated to, usually county fairgrounds, and just work all day grabbing volunteers and staff and whatnot. Say, hey, what is the animal that you like the most, that you care about the most, identify with the most, the one that you check in on the first thing, the one that you're worried about? Take me to that animal, tell me its story, and I'm going to take a portrait of you with this animal that's touched you. Like, because we talk a lot about the property damage. We do talk a little bit about the evacuations. We don't really talk about the effects they have on the animal population. Like animals actually will get tremendously traumatized by this stuff. And also the people who go just above and beyond to like take care of these animals that just aren't theirs. Like, these aren't the owners. Mm-hmm. They're mostly volunteers who just come in to help. And it's no longer, like I said, it's no longer a one-off. This is a yearly thing.
It is one of the best things about being a country person, I'm going to just say, and that is, when one is in need, you band together, because you never know when you're in need. It's the same thing that you hear in droughts when farmers from Kentucky send hay to Montana because their livestock is.
Yeah.
So it's not for the money. It's for the love of what you do and the animals that you're with.
Right. And then to top it off, because I can't do anything without like making a bespoke lens or lenses for a project, an old good friend of mine that speaking of motorcycles, I used to race motorcycles with, my buddy Greg. It turns out, his mom has her MFA in photography and is a no longer active wedding photographer, and had this beautiful Barnacle ETR SI kit with a 50, a 75, and a 150. And so I needed a steady camera to shoot this project with that was portable and I could shoot quick. And I love my Pentacons, but they're not always predictable. And so I pinged him and said, hey, can I buy that kit off your mom? And I said, I've got this project. And he said, hold on. And I said, well, I just talked to her. We're going to send it to you because you're going to do something good with it. And we would rather have it go to somebody who's going to do something good with it than go to some like Nashville hipster. He lives in Nashville, who's just going to buy it and like not really do anything with it. So I was like, what? So lo and behold, I got gifted a beautiful ETRSI and 3 lenses. Challenge is, as Ethan knows, the ETRSI has a built-in shutter into the lens. Mm-hmm. And most of my lenses obviously don't do that. So I have to use an existing ETRSI shutter setup to shoot with this body. So essentially buying ETRSI lenses with fungled up glass and disassembling them, and then using elements inside the barrel and the back to build lenses, which is a huge issue, mostly because for the longer ones, you might get 40 millimeters of distance between your back element and your front element. And that makes it really difficult to build a lens. Like the standard, I'm going to take two 200 millimeter lenses and make a 100 millimeter compound lens is based on only having like 1 or 5 millimeters of space between the elements, right? All of a sudden you have 40. That fucking math doesn't work anymore. Pardon my bohemian. It gets real interesting real quick. Like the two lenses I have right now is I built a 135 and it takes like 4 600 millimeter acromats in the front and a 285 millimeter acromat in the back to get a 133 millimeter lens with a 75 millimeter back focal length. It's just a freaking beast to work out.
What's your aperture on that?
It's good. It's like f2.8. It rips. It rips.
Hey, that reminds me, are you keeping in the automatic aperture in the ETRSI lens? Okay, so you can stop it down like a real lens.
Yes, exactly.
Aren't you getting fancy?
The challenge is, of course, as you noted before,
is not exact.
No, it's way off. Like the 153.5, basically I'm exposing the film at like, if I want to shoot it at 400, I set the meter to 800.
Sure.
And then, and then process accordingly.
Hey, I think this is probably a good time for you guys to plug a new project that you're working on before we're out. I mean, we basically have spent this last little portion on I'm a guest now on your podcast.
So what he's talking about there is Eric and I, and also Dom Silverthorne, who is lens_punk on Instagram, have recorded one episode, and we're coming up on scheduling. We need to schedule a second recording of Lens Punk, and that's a podcast that runs on the second feed of the Sunny 16 podcast called Sunny 16 Presents. So if you search search to add the podcast Sunny 16 Presents, you'll get ours, you'll get I Dream of Cameras, you'll get a ton of other...
It's like an umbrella organization.
Podcasts. Yeah.
Cartel, if you will.
Yeah, and that is graciously supported by the supporters of the Sunny 16 podcast. That was something from their Ko-fi coffee donations. And they do. So we'll have another one of those up soon.
Yeah. And the premise of that is basically just like how can you take and either just munge up, like take a pre-existing lens elements, like just take a pre-existing chunk of glass, like an M42, take it apart and repurpose the elements inside of it for other things, or make really simple, like Dom is making these really beautiful, simple pancake single element lenses or pinholes for Leica M39s and whatever, just because he used to make really nice field cameras. He's a woodworker by trade, so the dude knows what he's about. Unlike me, I have no fucking idea what I'm about when it comes to wood. But Dominic knows what he's doing. Like, he's a woodworker by trade in Japan. And like that's especially for like a British guy, like that's not an easy row to hoe. Like, Japanese woodworking is very exacting. So the dude's got skill, and he just wanted to simplify. And so it's just sort of a DIY lens podcast where Graham and I occasionally vociferously argue with tongue-in-cheek, to be honest, over things like sharpness and fidelity and not destroying the glass until you are ready to destroy the glass in a purposeful manner, where Graham's just destroying glass pell-mell, and I'm like, no,
why not? And we have those debates. So
you're wrong.
Yeah, but I'm right. But apparently, we don't know our math. Okay, so Ethan, how do people get a hold of you?
People can find me at cameradactyl.com or at cameradactyl on Instagram.
Yeah. Eric, how do people get a hold of you?
Just Instagram, ERIKHMATHY.
Yeah.
Sometimes active, sometimes not. Just depends on the day job, really.
Nick on Instagram is AvyNick, AvyNick. I am Graham Homemade Cameras on Instagram. I am also Down the Fidelity Curve on Instagram. And that's the best way to message us. You can also email me, Graham at Homemade Camera.
Oh, you can also catch me on the Large Format Photography podcast.
We saw, by the way, we actually saw all three of the hosts in Dave Shrimpton's dark room. Eric was looking mighty sexy.
That was me before I put on my hair.
Yeah.
Before I do my
hair.
There
we go. That's right. He was bald.
Or any other body part, honestly.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I guess we want to thank Robbie Cribbs for providing.
Hey, and before we go, I'm going to put up a chat link for those of you watching live. If you want to come say hi after the show, this is the link to the chat we're in. If you're not watching this live,
make it a bit smaller. It's still sitting outside my view, so I never know if. Yeah. Okay. So it is meet.google.com/xnh-HMHG-YBE. And do that and go to that live while you're in your car.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Let's do that. Robbie and get out of here. And
yeah, Robbie, thanks. Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie.